Hello, everyone. It's Phil Jones, and joining me is Patrick from JVC. And I love having JVC come because every time they show up, they talk about something new. And Patrick, you have some new models this year, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about them. It's the new NZ900, which would replace the NZ9, and the new RS4200, which would replace the RS4100. And the NZ8 is being replaced by the NZ800, and the RS3200 is replacing the RS3100.
Okay, so some great new products. But before we get started, we always have to thank our sponsor, who is Meridio and AV Pro, who helps us put on these projection showcases where we talk about all the great things that you need for a great projection system, including projectors, screens, and all of the different accessories. But of course, we know the heart of a projection system is the projector. And when we're talking about premium home theater projectors, one of the industry leaders is JVC. We've reviewed several of the projectors, Patrick, that you've actually introduced in the past, and we have been incredibly impressed with their performance. Now, before we start talking about the new models, let's talk about some of the key things that make a JVC projector a premium model because they do command a premium price. So let's talk about some of those things.
So the hallmark of any JVC projector and anything in our D-ILA lineup is going to be our contrast. We have far superior contrast than anyone else on the market. We even talk about specifically about something called native contrast, which is different than how other people talk about contrast. Native contrast is the brightest pixel right next to the darkest pixel that's being projected. That is real true contrast, as opposed to just the brightest pixel you can illuminate and then shutting down the projector. Contrast and black level is how people perceive depth.
That is a huge thing. Um, a lot of companies will give you these stupendous numbers, infinite, 2 million to 1 dynamic contrast. This is native contrast. If you look at me in the background, what makes me pop right now is this red shirt on this black background. The blacker that background looks on your screen, the more this red shirt is going to stand out. So native contrast is critical. And that's why every shootout, every reviewer, everybody loves JVCs because blacks are hard to do. It's easy to make something bright. It's hard to make something bright and deliver deep blacks, not grays, blacks. So I had to go in there and kind of promote that. So go on to the next one, Patrick.
Well, the next thing is a hallmark for our product is we have a wide color gamut, and we have all of our DLA projectors. You can be calibrated to ISF. We have lots of calibration ability. You have 100% of the DCI P3 color gamut, and the higher end projectors, we make sure that followed through with the new line as well. So color accuracy is extremely important for us.
And you have 3 independent panels, one for red, green, and blue. You get much better color brightness. So reds are more vibrant, greens are more, all the colors are more vibrant, they're more balanced, than what you would get if you try to use a single panel to try to emulate to do all of the colors.
And certainly more controllable with a 3-chip device, for sure.
Exactly.
And another thing, if you don't mind me getting, because I get so excited when I talk to you, I'm so sorry. But our optics and our resolution are top of the line. We use all glass lens assemblies on everything from the D-ILA design. Usually our competitors don't do that until you get them to the higher end lens assemblies, but we use it even on the inexpensive D-ILA projector, the $6,000 model. So we carry it all the way through the entire line. And what makes it even better now is we have a native 4K chip, but we also have 8K eShift, and there's something that I'm excited to talk about. But our native 4K chip produces excellent resolution, and that's being resolved through an all-glass lens assembly. And on our higher-end projector, 100mm all-glass lens that I have up over my right shoulder. A huge all-glass lens assembly resolves an amazing image.
One thing he mentioned too is the native 4K panel. A lot of projectors are 4K capable because it really is not a native 4K panel. It cannot display either 8.3 million pixels for 4K UHD or 8.8 million pixels for actual cinematic 4K. It cannot do that. And they use some sort of pixel shifting or something to try to generate those images. And they just cannot deliver the sharpness, the absolute amount of resolution that can be delivered from a native 4K panel. But you know what? It can be the sharpest thing outside, but if your window's foggy, it does not matter So in order to extract all of that information, optics are incredibly critical to ensure that all of that resolution that is in that scene that panel can reproduce actually ends up on your screen. And that includes in the middle and also edge to edge sharpness, because that's one thing that makes these things so much better is it as sharp in the edges as it is in the middle. And a lot of times with less lower quality lenses, it's not.
With that 100 mm lens, you can get edge sharpness on a huge image. I'm talking not just 150, 160, 170. I'm talking up to 200 inches, and you're getting amazing accuracy on the edges as well.
And one of the things too is we actually have in actually one of our demo spaces, we actually have a NZ9. A lot of times people forget to turn the projectors off. And back in the days when JVCs had bulbs, that was a I will go punch you in the face because you're wrecking, right? Because you're burning through my hours, right? Just adding your new laser light source that you utilize means that you have all of this performance, but you have that near maintenance free operation that you would have if you were using a flat panel TV. I still get mad when they don't turn it off, but it's not the end of the world if they don't. So that
Still
is something
throw it into eco mode. If it doesn't get a signal within an hour or so, it shuts itself down.
sometimes I'll come in and I can't even tell it's on because the laser light source has switched off. And then I'm like, hey, the light's not red. That means someone left it on, and I have to go and turn. But I don't hear it, and but it doesn't really impact the life of the projector. Back in the days, if you're going to play something in your JVC, it had to be bulb worthy. Right. My kids weren't, I didn't want my kids watching, Pokemon and cartoons on it because I didn't want them burning through my hours. And now, go right ahead, use it like a TV and enjoy it like a TV and still get all of that performance that JVC has to offer.
And just one more thing I'd like to add is all the projectors now will take in 8K 60p. All the D-ILA
Mhm,
projectors will
mhm,
take in 8K 60p or 4K 120
mhm.
for the gamers. Back in the day, JVC never believed that someone would want to take one of our prized, amazing projectors and let their children play video games on them. Now we have low latency that we offer on our projectors. We offer 4K 120. And because the projectors are going to last 20,000, the light source is going to last 20,000 hours. I mean, you're talking 10 years of letting someone play video games. And it's not just kids anymore playing video games. It's everybody playing video games. But now it's a real video game machine. Imagine a 150-inch 4K 120 image that you can just play for hours and hours and hours and still not run down the projector. It's absolutely fantastic. And I believe even to this, at the time of this interview, I believe we're still the only projector that does 8K 60 and 4K 120.
And that is actually true. It's funny. In that same demo space in the office that I work at, we actually have a 165-inch screen running off of the NZ9. And I have an Xbox and a PlayStation connected to it. Xbox and
Nice.
PlayStation 5. And at lunchtime, a lot of the employees come down and jump on either one of the latest Xbox games because we keep loading the latest Xbox and PlayStation games in, and they game on the thing. It really does enhance the gaming experience. And then last but not least, you guys are the king of when it comes to HDR performance, which we'll talk a little bit about along the way. So let's talk a little bit about the new models.
So the first thing I want to say is because we're using the same chassis, people are thinking this is just a tune up or an upgrade to the projector. That is not the case. And, I didn't know, 3 months ago, I had no idea either. I thought, oh, we're making some little tweaks and tunes. But this is an entirely different projector inside that housing. As far as I know, the only thing we kept was the plastic chassis, the optics, and the HDMI board.
Mhm.
Everything else, I'm pretty sure, is different. And one of those things that we changed is the laser light source. We have a whole new laser engine. It's going to give you 10% more power. So our top of the line projector is 3,300 lumens.
When we talk about the brightness from a JVC, this is not one time before it blows up, everybody looks like a green Martian brightness. And that's what happens a lot. You see these projectors that have these amazing brightness measurements. Half the time they can't reach them anyway. The next thing is if they can reach that brightness, the brightness is unusable. And by the time that you calibrate the projector to the point where the brightness, the color actually looks right, you get about half the brightness. when you look at a model like a JVC, like this model, if they're saying 3,300 ANSI lumens, that means with an accurate picture. So even after you went out and you ISF calibrated, you do all of that stuff, you're probably going to maintain 90% of that brightness, which is unheard of on most other projectors. So not only is it brighter, you get to utilize that brightness. And a lot of times when projectors get brighter, you really can't. So I had to actually bring that in as well.
And that laser light engine, when we're talking about increasing it 10%, they're like, oh, 10%, it's not a heck of a whole lot. But we didn't sacrifice anything. We'll get to contrast in just a second. But it's easy to make sacrifices. I can sacrifice color and I can sacrifice contrast for brightness. No problem. I can put more power onto the laser. That's really not an issue. The fact that it's a 3-chip design, that also makes it more difficult to get your brightness levels up to the point where you're at 3,300 lumens. But this time we're doing 100% DCI-P3 color gamut with the light output increase. And our contrast went up by 50%. We're at 150,000-to-1 native contrast ratio on the projector now. You'll notice that last year we released a 25th anniversary in very, very, very limited quantity, and that one also reported contrast levels similar to this. So that was the D-ILA chip we were really testing out, making sure this is going to work perfectly with the projector, and we're going to give you very similar results in that hand-built 25th anniversary projector.
Okay. So a refined, improved third generation D-ILA device. And it's still native 4K, but you've also worked on the pixel shifting, correct?
Yep, absolutely. So it's 8K eShiftX. So this was similar to the last generation. It's eShiftX, meaning that every single pixel is addressable. All 35.5 million pixels are addressable in that imager. But what's really, really cool about it is the fact that we've got a new scaling engine, and I didn't think it could get any better. Not everybody is watching 8K 60p content through a server in their house. If you go to a demonstration for JVC, we show you some native 4K stuff. And then we also show you some 8K shifted stuff and some 8K 60p stuff through that server. So you get a little taste of everything. But this is fantastic because it's actually going to improve the sharpness. We have the 8K shift device built in, but now we have a better scaling engine that makes even the 720, the 1080, the native 4K stuff look even better being fed to that 8K shift device.
One of the reasons why JVC projectors have been considered some of the best premium projectors on the market is its HDR performance. We talked about the fact that, yes, you got to be able to play back that older HD material, that 720p HD material, and maximize what your its look on your screen. But a large amount of material now is starting to be recorded in HDR. And whether a lot of times we switch from a dark movie to a bright movie, or it's masked at different different brightness levels, you find yourself writing the remote control settings on many projectors when it comes to HDR. In fact, a lot of projectors, I will tell you that if you say, what mode in HDR should I use? I tell you, switch your projector, your source back to SDR. It'll probably look better. JVC is one of the few projectors that I am impressed with their HDR performance, and HDR looks better on it than the SDR. So can you talk a little bit about why your HDR performance is so low?
It's because we have dynamic tone mapping built into the projector. Now, what dynamic tone mapping does is it kind of looks at the brightest pixel they can produce in the content and then the darkest pixel. And then imagine it's EQing itself for that particular movie. That would be auto tone mapping. With dynamic tone mapping, it actually processes and analyzes each individual frame of that content. And there are devices out there that do a tremendous job of doing this, but they're add-on devices, and they can cost between $5,000 and $16,000. Be able to add a dynamic tone mapping device to JVC projector, it's built in. So in that cost that you look at the $26,000 NZ900 or RS4200, you've got that $16,000 processor built into your JVC projector, and it does all that dynamic processing for you automatically. And it does it frame by frame.
What are some other things that make this projector special?
So something else that we've added into both of these two models is we've actually added a deep black mode. Now, this is part of a frame adapt HDR software. It works in conjunction with that. So with the HDR software, it's going to actually improve your black. It's an enhanced algorithm involved with the deep black mode. So it's going to give you even better perceived darkness. There's several different techniques that we're using through that software, and you can shut it on and off if it's some algorithm that didn't agree with the software that you're watching, or I'm sorry, the content that you're watching. But everything I've seen on it looks absolutely fantastic.
It's a fact that projectors do not have the brightness range to reproduce all of the brightness that is found in a piece of HDR content. In fact, most flat panels do not have the brightness range to capture all of that. So you have to effectively use the brightness range, how bright it can be and how black it can be, and either adjust the curve that you're using or where you're using the brightness in order to maximize the look of that image at that specific time. There is no one size fits all that's going to look good on when you go from a dark scene to a bright scene. So being able to instantly react when the scene changes frame by frame means that every scene is optimized in order to give you the best picture at that point, utilizing the screen that you're using and the brightness capability of that projector. And that is why this frame adapt HDR keeps winning awards when it comes to picture quality.
And that deep
So,
black mode is just an addition to that makes it just that much better. And in conjunction with that, for SDR mode, we've added something called vivid mode to it, which really makes stuff pop. It really makes the field of a football game be the brightest, craziest screen that you've ever seen. It may not be the most color accurate, but when you're watching something like that you just want something to pop and sizzle, especially for animation. Animation looks fantastic on this. We watched probably 2 hours of content when I was first introduced to the new line of projectors with that new vivid mode with SDR. It looks just absolutely rivetingly sick. It's awesome.
Engineers are never satisfied with the performance. They're only satisfied at that point. And if they continue to work on getting it better and better and better, and JVC does a great job doing that.
And
Sharing those-
in years past, we have such huge processors in these projectors, right? That's why we can do 8K 60p and 4K 120 without breaking a sweat. And we can also upload these new, we call them not firmware updates, but firmware upgrades. And they're free. So like any time that we plan on having a firmware upgrade go into the next generation of projector, if we can squeeze it into the projector that you already own with a JVC, we release it. Usually in between model years, we release that so you can improve your projector as we're improving the design back in Japan. So, and we've added Theater Optimizer, we've added several different versions of Frame Adapt HDR, and whatever additional features that we can add to your projector, we're going to give that to you before we come out with the next model. Just enhancing the purchase that you already made from us and you already made from your distributor or whoever you bought it from.
Yeah, but eventually sometimes you need a bigger processor. And so that's why you can't, or it requires a hardware change, which is why eventually they'll upgrade as far as they can, but then eventually it gets to the point where you got to buy another one. So that's why they actually came out with the new 800 NZ800, NZ, and the NZ900. So we talked about the vivid picture mode, which I can't wait until you send me a sample, Patrick, so I can actually utilize this. No pressure. No pressure.
I don't have mine yet either, just so you know, but we will get one to you, I promise. I can't wait for your review. You're going to love it. You're going to be even more impressed. I never even thought that we could get a better picture after the NZ9, but we keep making it better. The resolution gets better. The contrast gets better. Everything is getting better on these machines.
Okay, so let's recap. The NZ900 slash RS4200. It's going to retail for how much?
$26,000. $25,999.95. So that's our premier projector, and I will put that up against the competitor's projector at the next price level all day long. every single day. We have a 3-year warranty on every D-ILA projector. The first year's advanced exchange. If you have a problem with the projector, you call me. If I can't get it figured out, we ship another one back and you ship it back to you. And then the next step down would be the NZ800 or the RS3200, and that one is $16,000. And the big difference between these two is the light output's going to change, partially because the big dog has a 100mm all glass lens, and the smaller one has a 65mm all glass lens. So we're going to lose a little bit of efficiency. So we went from 3,300 lumens on the NZ900 RS4200 down to 2,700 lumens on the NZ800 DLA RS3200.
Okay, so at least 10% brighter and the best optics in the industry. And anybody that ever has dealt with a super high-end cinema lens or photography lens knows that a very big lens, a very good lens can definitely is an expensive thing, but it also makes a noticeable difference in what you're trying to capture or display.
And the contrast goes down a little bit between the two machines. You lose about 50,000 to 1 native contrast. That's because of chip grading. The very best of the best chips are going to go into the NZ900 RS4200. And then the next grade down is going to go into the RS3200 NZ800. But those are the two big things that you're going to notice from the two projectors.
Okay. And of course, and then of course the NZ is the 7s and the MP5. Those models will continue on for a little while longer.
Those models are going to continue on for a little while longer. We don't see a reason for changing those. They're at a really good price point. They're moving very, very well, and they're going to give you great performance for the amount of money that they cost.
Okay. So I am incredibly excited to have the opportunity to check out these projectors, either at trade shows or when I finally get them in one or two of those into my lab. But Patrick, thank you for coming and talking about JVC's new models. If they want to learn more about these models, where should they go?
You should www.jvc.com. And if you also go to our YouTube channel, JVC America, you're going to see lots of new video content that we've just recently put up about them as well. And you can visit your distributors or your retailers. There's retailers all over the country that are already filled with information and they're getting ready to get their product mid-June, where we expect to start shipping these, and we're really excited. We've already got the first batch as of this interview. We've already got the first batch in Long Beach, 100% QC, make sure everything's hitting every spec that we promised you to have.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I link to those new JVC YouTube videos in the description of this particular video as well. So, and I'm looking forward to reviewing them, like I said, in the future. So hopefully you out there have learned a little bit about these new models and you are excited about them as I am. So thank you everyone and take care, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.